Hello and welcome to the Pride of All Europe podcast brought to you by All For United. I'm your host James and I'm joined by a brilliant panel today. I'm joined by Gaz and I'm joined by Daniel. How are you boys doing?
All good, mate. All good. Been a good fun few days. Football every day. Love it.
I can't complain. All good here as well. Enjoying the football.
Absolutely. Long may it continue. So obviously we're going to be talking about the Euros again today. It was another pretty hectic day of football action yesterday. So we'll start with the biggest game. I think it's fair to say that was Germany versus France. I don't think it disappointed either, did it? Quality-wise, France coming off 1-0 winners. I'll come to you first, guys. What were your thoughts on the game?
Germany worked really hard, actually, but the game sort of went, I think, the way that most of us expected it to go. Felt like France had just that touch more quality in pretty much every position on the pitch. Defensively, they were really impressive. I don't know. I've not heard too much of the punditry after, but I do hope that Varane was getting a lot of credit for his performance because he was absolutely brilliant. I think the whole French defence actually were brilliant. Kimpembe as well. He deserves a shout out. Some real saving tackles. But I suppose you could directly compare how the France defence performed individually to how the German defence performed individually. And that's a good indication of where the two teams are at right now. You just compare some of the absolute nightmares that Hummels had last night compared to obviously much younger, much more dynamic defenders that the French had. Mate, that moment in the game, you'll know the moment I'm on about, where Hummels is about 20 yards in front of Mbappe chasing the ball, and Mbappe gets to it way earlier than he does, sprints away. And genuinely, I had a few mates around here last night, and when that happened, I didn't even enjoy it. I was like, oh no. It's like bullying. It's like bullying an old age pensioner. And that's kind of what it felt like a little bit watching the game last night. France had so much quality, could have scored way more goals. And France are the team that, I know that it's not exactly an interesting thing to say, but I can't see how they don't win the Euros at the moment. I think they beat everyone on the day.
Yes, it's a fair shout. I think we're going to talk about favourites shortly. But just to carry on from what you said there, I'll ask you, the run from Mbappe was incredible, wasn't it? The way he outpaced him. And then I think we're on about the same one where he runs into the box and then he's challenged by Hummels. It was deemed to have been fairly. So at first glance, I thought that was a penalty. What did you think on that, guys?
I thought it was incredibly lucky from Hummels. I think that was a desperate lunge from Hummels. Some people might actually credit him for it and say, well, at least he recovered it in the end. That was a desperate lunge, and he got really lucky to get the ball. Some refs might have even still given the penalty. When you watch it back, I don't think it was a penalty. And yeah, I guess technically it was a good challenge, but it was just an indication of how the game was going to go. And then obviously you had the Hummels own goal. And yeah, just throughout the game, I thought it proved that if you've got defenders like that, you're relying on defenders like that at his age, then you've probably not got a team to win the Euros at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. I'll come to you next, Daniel. It wasn't sort of the defensive stability we're used to from your traditional Germany teams, but do you think the defence let them down, or were you just massively impressed by France's performance last night?
I'm not too quick to count out the Germans. I mean, if history shows us anything, it's not to discount the Germans when they're playing football in major tournaments. Now, for me, yes, France were the better team. On the counter-attack, they just look electric, and the pace they've got in the team and the quality they've got to come off the bench as well it is by far the best squad in the Euros. But like I say, you can't count the Germans. One average performance, because it wasn't a terrible performance, it was an average performance, doesn't mean anything at this stage in the tournament. So for me, I think they'll come on strong. I think they'll get better as the tournament goes along, as they always have done, and they could make it all the way to the semis or the final, even, because they have got that quality in the squad and the quality off the bench to come forward in the attacking play as well. I thought they were quite wasteful in certain opportunities last night, where they controlled a lot of the play at times and they just couldn't create, or when they did create, they didn't put the chances away, and they could have nicked an equaliser in the game. So for me to count them out now, I think would be a bit silly. But yeah, France were phenomenal to watch, and the pace of Mbappe and the other players on the counter-attack is phenomenal to watch. And the work rate as well. The French work rate was unbelievable. I mean, we all know how good Kante is with his work rate and getting around the pitch. But I thought the same of Pogba, Griezmann, Mbappe, Benzema. They were all working their nuts off. So if they can continue that, then of course they are the favourites for the tournament. But I wouldn't discount a couple of the teams, including Germany.
Yeah, absolutely. It's never a smart decision to discredit the Germans as a major tournament. But I'll come to you guys. Obviously, I was a little bit disappointed with Germany in the final third, but I thought, the way that the midfield controlled the game for large parts of the game, the way they were, breaking the lines and sort of dictating the play, like I said, for quite a lot of it. It's just, were you disappointed when it got to that final third? Because they never seemed to have that sort of killer ball, that little bit of invention that they needed to get in behind the France defence? Or do you think, like you said earlier, it was a big credit to the France defenders for keeping them at bay?
I do. I think you've got to give credit to the French defenders. And I also think that France were quite happy at certain parts of the game to let Germany have the ball in midfield. I don't think they felt too threatened at any point. Like I say, I think France should have scored more than they actually did when they were going forward. Mbappe was unlucky to be offside, of course, for that. What was a wonder goal for me. For him to put that in the bottom corner from that position is absolute genius. And obviously getting the 1-0 win, I suppose you could say that in certain respects, maybe the French were lucky to get out with a win because it was a 1-0. But I think that was just a teaser, really, for what they've got to show for the rest of the tournament. And I wouldn't be discounting Germany. I wouldn't be discounting Germany if they didn't have Portugal to play as well in the same group. And I just think that this Portugal team, in a way similar to the French team, sorry, it's so loud outside my house. In a way similar to the French team, they're more dynamic, I think, than the German team. And I think they could play a very similar way, actually. Let Germany have a bit of the ball, hit them on the break and punish them. I think that I understand, like, this isn't an interesting prediction, really, because I think that this year at the Euros, it's France, Portugal as the real standout teams. And anyone else below them, I think, is in the same boat. Like, I think that maybe Germany, England, Spain, the like to them. I think we're all in the same boat this year.
I think we lost a bit of the connection there, but just to round us off on France, Germany, then Daniel, I'll come to you. Like we said, it was a bit of a masterclass from Mbappe, wasn't it? We're seeing him at his full strength, especially yesterday against Germany with his speed and his power. Do you think he's even at his young age, he can take this tournament by the scruff of the neck? There's a lot of shouts that he'll become player of the tournament, or at least young player of the tournament. Do you see that, or are you still sort of wanting more from him?
Well, he's a young lad. He's a phenomenal talent. He's got pace to burn. He can score goals. He can finish. He works his absolute socks off. He's good positionally. He's good on the ball as well. He holds the ball up. He's strong. There's not many attributes he hasn't got as a winger stroke striker. So, yeah, absolutely, he can take this tournament by storm, and I think he will do. Whether he gets player of the tournament, who knows? But I think there's a lot of players out there that are capable of doing that, and I think usually is a player that is on a winning team. So he's got all the chance that he could be up there. But he's also got a hell of a lot of quality around him, and that's why France are so strong this year, so good this year, because every single one of that starting 11 is a phenomenal talent, and like I say, with the players coming off the bench as well. So yeah, for me, Mbappe, he's been doing it for a number of years now, and he is still a young pup, isn't he? So yeah, with the team he's playing in and the ability and quality he's got, he could quite easily take this tournament by storm. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll move on then to the other game in that group. Obviously, we sort of had a crossover, didn't we, yesterday, guys? During the game, I think you were tuning in while I was talking to you. Portugal obviously did eventually run out 3-0 winners against Hungary, but it wasn't as easy as the scoreline would suggest, would it? Obviously. Well, go on. Sorry, I'll pass it.
No, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt, mate. I was just going to say, I was on the radio when this game was on, so I'll be honest. Maybe there's certain parts of the game that I missed, but from what I saw, it felt like Hungary gave Portugal a really, really, really tough game, and obviously they were another one that were maybe unlucky with having a goal ruled out for offside. In fact, actually, sorry to get sidetracked, but can we just point out how well VAR has worked so far at the Euros? Like, these calls are being made much quicker, much less deliberation, and so far they've all been correct. Like, maybe there's not been too many real contentious decisions yet, but I've been really impressed with VAR actually so far at the Euros so far. We'll wait and see. We're probably all going to go wrong on Friday for England now I've said that, famous last words. But yeah, Hungary, they had the ball in the back of the net. It was full crowd. You had a lot of they were clearly giving Portugal a hard time. Didn't deserve to win 3-0, did they, Portugal? That was quite a flattering scoreline. Am I right in thinking that all of the goals came in the last 10 minutes as well? So, if that's the case, that tells you all that you need to know, really.
Sorry, I was just sneezing then.
Bless you.
I completely agree with you. It's an interesting point that you made about VAR. We'll come back to the Portugal game because I think that's actually a really interesting point. It has worked really well so far in this tournament. And I remember going back to 2018 as well, when it was sort of first introduced in that World Cup. It worked, really well there as well. There weren't many complaints about it. So I'll come to you, Daniel. Is there anything different that they're doing at these major tournaments that we can implement over in England? Because there's still so much controversy about it in this country.
Yeah, I think it's within the UK and the Premier League. I think it's a lot of getting used to, and it's a lot of scrutiny around it. And I think they are taking a hell of a lot of time to make what seems to be a basic decision. The linesmen are letting offsides go, or touch and go offsides go, and then it's being brought back. And every single time it has been correct. Well, they've amended it and made the decision the correct decision. So the speed of it, I just think, as Gaz mentioned there before, is what's key. Get it looked at. If it's obvious, that's what it is. Get it done. Get the game. Get back on again. So for me, yeah, they've done phenomenally well, and it's just a case of, I suppose, the Premier League and the British leagues taking a look at it and how it's done and the quickness of it and trying to implement that into the Premier League season.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to see some sort of improvement soon. But I'll stick with you, Daniel. We'll come back to the Portugal game. Obviously, they were, along with France, sort of tournament favourites before we came into this tournament. And then, like I said, they were largely frustrated by Hungary. They had to rely on some very late goals. Were you disappointed by what you saw from Portugal? Do you think that they've not quite lived up to the hype yet? No,
not at all. I think it was Hungary's first game in the tournament for God knows how long. They had the home crowd, full stadium. It was, they were all up for it, and it was a great atmosphere just as watching it as a neutral. So it was always going to be a tough game for Portugal. I mean, like you mentioned, the quality in that squad as well is phenomenal. You look at the starting 11, and again, the players that they brought off the bench that can come on and change the game as well. So for me, I watched the game, and Hungary were very good. They worked their socks off, and they were well organised. But for me, it was always a case of the goal is coming for Portugal, and I know 3 goals came extremely late, and Hungary were unlucky with the offside goal that was disallowed, but it was the right decision. So for me, watching the game, I always thought that Portugal are going to get a goal at some point, and maybe 3-0 was a little bit flattering, but they still deserve to win the game for me, and they do look solid. They've got quality all over the pitch, from defence all the way to attack, and again with the players off the bench as well. So it's an exciting group, that group, and I do think 3 teams will qualify from that group, with only a few teams go, 8 teams that go out in the Euros in the first half of the group stages. So I do think the three big guns will go through, and it really open up the tournament as time goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely. I see what you mean. I completely think that the 3 will go through from that group, but I think the final talking point from that game, guys, is Cristiano Ronaldo. Obviously, 2 goals. He became the record scorer at European Championships. Still doing it at 36. What is there left to say about this man?
He's like a machine, isn't he? He's ridiculous. He really, I think there was maybe a time in football when footballers really became athletes, as aside from just sportsmen. And I think he is the prime example of that. He's one of the greatest athletes ever, not just in football. He's an absolute specimen. And he was incredible. I thought he was great again yesterday. I don't think he had a bad game at all. And you certainly saw no signs of his age impacting what he's doing at the moment. I was always under the assumption that he'd play the World Cup in Qatar, and that might be a swan song. That might be the last we see of Ronaldo. He plays the rest of that season, obviously, with it being in the winter, and then that's it. But from what I'm seeing at the minute, he could potentially go even further. It's whenever he fancies stopping, I guess. And what is he now? 38? Something like that? How old is he?
36, I think. Yeah.
36. Sorry, I'm adding a couple of extra ages. I'm adding a couple of extra years on him there. So I think that he'll probably go on and potentially, I could see Ronaldo playing the next Euros as well. It's very, very possible. And he's still great to watch. He just is. He's one of those players that you're just confident that he's going to do something, no matter how bad a game he's having, no matter how much he might not be appearing in the game. You just know he's the man to rely on. And yeah, it was brilliant. But I can't imagine how frustrated Bruno Fernandes must have been having to watch someone else take a penalty.
Yeah, definitely not used to it. But I'll come to you, Daniel. It'll be interesting to get your point of view on it as a former footballer. Obviously, we said he is 36. Despite his physical condition, his legs aren't where they used to be, previously. But how impressed are you by the way he sort of transitioned his game and evolved over the years to become the player he is today now that he's not so reliant on speed?
Well, that's it. I think you hit the nail on the head there. He has evolved. He's grown into his abilities in terms of how his body's changed and the capabilities his body can do. He can't run around like he used to when he was 26. He's not this flying winger anymore. Albeit if he's on the left hand side or the right hand side, you still fancy him to get a decent cross in or create an opportunity for himself. But he's adapted. He's a striker now. He's I think Gary Neville said on the commentary after the game, he's a poacher. He gets in these positions. He's always got the quality on the ball. We know that he's a phenomenal talent with his awareness, his skill, his ability, his capabilities of putting the ball in the back of the net. And he's like you said, he's adapted to his body and his age. And I think, like Gaz says, for me, I'm not 100% sure he'll be the next Euros, but for me, definitely the next World Cup, and he'll break every record going. But so fair play to him. He's someone that all young players should look up to have that desire, commitment and hard work rate to go in and continue to do it at his age is second to none, and he is the GOAT. He really is.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't disagree with that. Well, just before we move on to today's games, then I'll ask you just a few quick questions to both of you. First of all, now that everyone's played one game, we're exactly one game through for everyone. You've seen everyone, play once at this tournament. I'll come to you first, Gaz. Who are you sort of picking out as favourites now that you've seen teams play?
Well, I tell you what, I won't say either France or Portugal because it's boring. So apart from those two, I genuinely think the team that has impressed the most so far from the first game has to be England. I think to put in that sort of performance against the World Cup finalists and obviously get the winning result where we maybe could have got even more has to be very, very impressive, especially on a day where it was one of those days where in the past maybe certain things could have been used as excuses for the England team, the weather being primarily one, which I don't know how you can use that as an excuse when it's a home game, but the heat, you could see that was a problem for them, and the way that they managed the game in spite of that, I thought was really impressive. And like I say, we're apart from France, we're the team that's beaten another big team so far in the competition. So you've got to be most impressed with England. I think we'll wait and see about Italy, because obviously Italy had that great result against Turkey, but we don't actually know how good Turkey are yet. A lot of people praised them loads before the tournament, said they've got a really good young team and have, a lot to show for it. But we've not actually seen that yet. So maybe Turkey aren't as good as everyone's saying, but Italy as well, I guess that was an impressive result for them as well. And as we've said, you can't be ruling out Germans and you can't be ruling out the Spanish either, because they've got low expectations going into this, which I actually think is a good thing for a team like Spain. They've got a very different team. They play a very different way to the sort of tick-attack away that we always imagine Spain playing. And I think having low expectations, the same way that it helped England in 2018, it could help Spain as well. So it's too early, I guess. But at the moment, for me, apart from Portugal, France, got to be England.
Yeah, fair enough. I was impressed with them. I'll ask the same question to you, Daniel. Now that you've seen everyone, is there anyone sort of different that's sticking out in your mind as favourites?
I think the obvious ones are the favourites, the one that we discussed. I think you got to look at. It's hard to look past France and Portugal as the top two, almost with the squads that they have. But having conversations before and during this tournament, I genuinely think it's one of 7 or 8 teams that could win this. On their day, they can beat anyone, and the teams I'm mentioning and just talking about are obviously your Portugal, your France, Italy, Germany, Spain, Belgium. There's a couple more that and any of these teams on their day can beat any team in this tournament. So for me, I've been most impressed with Italy, because the build up to the tournament as well, they're unbeaten in 27, not conceded a goal in 9 or 10, and probably a little bit of bias because I've been brought up supporting Italy with my granddad and my dad. So, but I just thought they were phenomenal. The way Mancini's got them playing, the high press, the work rate, and they have got quality in their team as well, with a hell of a lot of experience in the back line as well. So, I'd be tempted to say if we discount France and Portugal, that Italy could do well in this tournament.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think the way Italy made Turkey look like a very average team deserves a hell of a lot of credit. But this comment's just brought me on to my last question before we move on. Alderbear saying he's been most impressed by Wales and Sweden, which is what I wanted to ask both of you. Has there been a team or even a player that's sort of surprised you or impressed you a lot more than expected so far in this tournament? I'll come to you first, guys.
Good point on Sweden, actually, because I thought Sweden held Spain really well, and then they did have probably the two biggest chances of the game as well. Is it Isaacson, your man up front for Sweden? I thought he looked brilliant. He looked really good. He was bullying the Spain defence, set up what should have been a goal and maybe should have scored one himself. So, yeah, he's impressed me. As for Wales, I'm not too sure about Wales. I think in that Switzerland game, I wasn't massively impressed by Wales. I thought that they maybe got off a little bit lucky in that one. Switzerland looked like the better side. But, in a 3-game group stage, it's all about getting the result. And especially when you've got the third-place teams going through. What I've been saying all tournament is 3 points will probably get you out the group. So to get that 1 point, they just need one more win now. And I think they'll be pretty much assured out the group. But, yeah, I was impressed with Sweden, actually. And it was a good result for them.
Fair enough. Daniel, I'll ask you the same thing. Any player or team that's sort of surprised or impressed you so far?
Yeah, the lad, I can't forget his name, the lad up front for Sweden, the striker. I can't remember his name.
Was it Isaacson?
It's just Isaac, I think, or Isaac.
Oh, is it? My apologies.
I mean, he was brute strength, wasn't he? And he was unlucky not to score. He put one on the plate for his strike partner, who missed an absolute sitter. But Isaac, yeah, I think his name was. I think you're right. And for me, he was really impressive in that game against a tough Spain team. I mean, Spain are always tough to play against, and Sweden were unlucky to not get away with the win there, because they could have nicked it. And obviously Lindelof had a good game as well, which was pleasing to see. So Sweden, very impressed with them, albeit, Spain dominated the game and could have scored a few goals, but they did phenomenally well to get the point. And obviously you mentioned, I think it was Ugly Bear mentioned Wales as well. I think, yes, you can never discount Wales as well, because what they achieved in the last tournament, it was phenomenal. So, and they've got that little bit of quality, haven't they, in Bale and Ramsey, that can always create something. So if they can, nick a win against Turkey, or get a couple of draws in the last 2 games, I do think the 3 points can take them through. And again, they defend very well. They're very solid. So if Wales can defend well and continue to do that, they can always nick a goal.
Definitely hope so. As a home nation, I sort of hope they go through. But we'll move on to the games of this today. Sorry, can't get my words out then. A couple of actually very sort of underrated and exciting games coming up today. First of all, we've got Finland versus Russia, which may sound like a bit of a nothing game, but if Finland win this game, they're through to the next round, and they're more than likely going to win their group, despite no one really giving them a chance of getting out of this group. So, guys, what are your thoughts for this game coming up?
Yeah, this is when it really gets exciting for me now, when you see nations like Finland, the first ever time at a European Championships, first ever time at a major competition, and they're on the cusp of qualifying from the group. Yeah, like you say, a win will take them through. A draw would probably also take them through, with the third place teams getting through. I think it's, it gets really exciting now. And, the Russians did not look spectacular at all in their first game. They seemed like they were tiring early in the game, which isn't something that we saw in 2018. So say what you want about that, but I'm joking. But Finland, genuinely, yeah, mate, I'm really excited for that. These are the ones now where I'm really getting buzzing for it. What are the details on where the game is held? I'm guessing maybe Finland, Russia, that would be held in Copenhagen. And if it is in Copenhagen, it'll be nice to see.
Sorry, it's being held in St. Petersburg.
Oh, St. Petersburg. Okay, well, still, I guess there is a home team there, so it'll still be good to see the fans really up for it. But it would have been nice to see Finland in their first major European competition playing in front of a load of Finnish fans. But then I suppose maybe, I don't know what the travel rules are around there. Maybe Finland fans can get to Russia for that one. I don't know. But yeah, it's an exciting game, that. Really exciting, mate. Can't wait.
Absolutely. And it was worth mentioning, like I said, that Russia were very under-impressive against Belgium. You know, they just got completely walked over. So I'll come to you, Daniel. What are you expecting from this game? Because it's a big game for both nations, isn't it?
It is. It's a huge game. Russia, they're a good team. They're a solid team. They're not going to, they're not going to take the tournament by storm by no stretch of the imagination, but they are a good team, and I think they came up against a really tough Belgian side as well. Belgium, for me, got a great chance. I got them in the sweepstake at work, so I'll be happy if they continue doing as they are in the first game. So it's a tough game, Belgium. So they've got to win. It's a must-win game for them. And if I'm being brutally honest, Finland, with what happened in the first game with Denmark and obviously Eriksson, it was a tough atmosphere, tough game, and the fact that they played that game, I think it worked in their favour in terms of getting the 3 points. What happened, because it was tough, tough circumstances for the Danish team. So for me, I think Russia will go ahead and win this today quite comfortably. I think it'll be a 2-0 win for Russia. Personally, I think they'll be too strong for Finland.
Also, just to be a smart arse, and also just to give a geography lesson for anyone who doesn't know this, whoever's on the All for United Twitter account right now, they've just tweeted, Gaz is excited by the Scandinavian underdogs. Well, as I learned on Twitter when I tweeted the other day about the Scandinavian derby, Denmark v Finland, Finland and Finnish people don't class themselves as Scandinavian, apparently. So there we go. Every day's a school day, guys.
Wait, but is that official, or is that like Scouse people?
No, it's official. They're not. Oh, right. They're not. No, they're not. They're not a Scandinavian country. Apparently, I'd learned this literally 3 days ago, and I'm sorry to disrespect all Finnish people. I had a Finnish mate growing up. I didn't even know. Fair
enough. Well, we'll move on to the second game of the day, 5 o'clock. This is going to be a big game, closer to home. Anyway, it's the sort of the favourite underdogs going into the tournament, Turkey, coming up against obviously Wales. This is obviously again a huge game for both teams, with both teams needing the points. So, Gaz, I'll come to you. Sort of, are you expecting more from Turkey this game? Because on paper they should really be beating this Wales team.
I mean, I'm going to be totally honest and just plead my own ignorance here. A lot of people were really, bigging up Turkey before the competition. And I'll be honest, a lot of players maybe that we're talking about weren't players that I've seen play too regular. So all I've seen really around Turkey is a lot of the hype around them. Whereas Wales, obviously, I know a lot of the players in the Wales team. I went to see them actually in a qualifying game against Croatia that they drew in Cardiff a few years ago. So, for me, I can't comment too much on the quality of the two sides, but based on what we've seen already in the competition, Wales showed a lot of heart in that game and did well to get a result because Switzerland were the better side, and Turkey didn't really show anything against Italy, but Italy a much better team than Switzerland. So this is why the Euros is so exciting, especially on game day 2, because this one could go either way. It could go either way, and maybe this is a chance for Turkey to really prove that the hype is justified, especially against a team like Wales. But I'll be honest, I probably would back Wales for this one, for the fact that they've got it in their head that they know that a win will take them through. And, we all know what happened at the last Euros. I think they'll really go for this. And yeah, I want Wales to do well as well. I'm not one of these national, when I want to watch international football, I'm not one of these English fans who for some reason really hates the home nations. I actually want them to do well. I was about to say I couldn't care less, but that's actually not true. I want the Welsh and I want the Scottish to do well, just not against England. So yeah, come on, Wales.
Yeah, fair enough. I agree with you as well. I don't get the whole sentiment around wanting Scotland and Wales to do well. Paulie, I know they don't want us to do well, but we're that's expected because we're the bigger.
Yeah,
country,
it's exactly that punching up. They're punching up.
Yeah.
You see, it's bullying to punch down, isn't it, Daniel?
Well, I'll come to you, Daniel, because they mentioned in the comments there's an impressive game by Daniel James. I was very impressed by him anyway against Switzerland. I think he sort of showed Gareth Bale up a little bit with his invention and his flair. And we know that Turkey, looking at how they played against Italy, we know there's a mistake in that back line. So you're expecting a big game from Dan James?
I think the way the Wales set up is perfect for Dan James and Gareth Bale, because they're never going to be a team that's going to dominate the game. They're not going to have 60-70% of possession, but on the counter-attack, they've got frightening pace, and it's perfect for Dan James. I thought he was phenomenal in the first game. I thought he worked really hard. I was surprised they took him off. It was a strange decision for me, but yeah, he was really good. And I think teams like this, where Turkey have got to come out and they've got to win the game, a draw is probably not going to be good enough for them, whereas Wales would probably take a draw. So they've got to come out, they've got to go at Wales, and that could create some opportunities on the counter-attack for Dan James, for Bale, for the other attacking players within the squad. And for me, it's a tough game to call. If I was going to give my prediction, I'd say it's probably going to be a draw. But Wales could sneak it with the pace they've got on the counter attack, and obviously I'll definitely be supporting Wales. I was lucky enough to get a few international caps for them when I was still playing. So for me, it's a big game that I'm looking forward to watch.
Absolutely, I really hope it's an entertaining game, because they're two teams with quite a bit of attacking flair, and they're probably weakest at the back. So I'm hoping for a high-scoring game, but. We'll move on to the final game, obviously Italy versus Switzerland. Italy, very, very impressive. Switzerland, I was very impressed by them against Wales as well, especially Mbolo up top. I thought he had a phenomenal game. But Gaz, is this a bit of a formality for you, given how impressed you were by Italy in the first round?
Not in the slightest. No, not in the slightest. I thought Switzerland were really unlucky, I think, in the first game. And I think this is going to be I think this could be the best game of the day, actually. 3 really juicy games, haven't we, today? 2 games where there's so much on the line for nations who would maybe just expect to get out of the group stage. So it would mean so much to them to get a result today in Wales and Finland. And then I think tonight's game is going to be the game with the real quality. And Mbolo was so good for a player that I think I read yesterday he scored 5 goals in the championship this season. He looks absolutely brilliant. He was bullying him at times, and he was great. I absolutely loved watching him. And yeah, obviously Italy, very different side that you're coming up against. It's common sense that the Italians are always going to have a strong defense. But if anyone's going to give them a problem, it's Mbolo. And yeah, I think that tonight's game could be an absolute cracker. So now I've said that, watch Italy just absolutely steamroller and 4-0 now.
I think all the emphasis you're putting on this being a good game means it's definitely going to end up 0-0, which is a bit of a shame.
Exactly, yeah.
Daniel, obviously you said you were raised as an Italy fan. Are you excited by the prospect of Italy playing again? Do you think they can sweep Switzerland under the carpet, given how well they completely dismantled Turkey?
Well, with the way Mancini's got them playing, I'm really impressed with. I think historically Italy are a defensive team. They go a goal up and they don't concede. They win games 1 or 2-0. I think they mentioned that they've never scored 3 goals in the European tournament. For however many years. So for them to go out and totally dismantle Turkey was really impressive. They've got a lot of flair, a lot of quality. They've got players to come back, Verratti to come back, who's struggling with injury. I think, like I mentioned, they're solid at the back. They always will be, because the Italian mentality is defend. So for me, it is going to be the most entertaining game. I know we've all said it now, so it's probably going to be terrible. But yeah, I do think that Italy will win tonight. I think they'll win it quite comfortably, just because they have got the Italian defensive mentality and the quality going forward. And I've been really impressed with Mancini and how he's transformed that Italian team. He's done phenomenally well, and he's looking to be a really good pick for the Italian manager. Yeah,
absolutely. So I'm of the sort of population that thinks that Italy can do really well in this tournament. But I was really unimpressed by Turkey, and it's something I wanted to ask you both. Do you think we need to reserve a bit of judgment for Italy until they play one of the better teams? Or do you think they sort of proved that by dismantling Turkey in the way that they did? I'll come to you first, guys.
We'll have to wait and see how good Turkey are. Like I'm just going to plead ignorance here. I'm not going to pretend I know loads about a team that I don't. Like, my knowledge on Turkey at the moment is just purely based on a lot of the hype, and a lot of people call them dark horses. Well, I think we're going to have to see him play again just to see if that was actually an impressive result or not. But I don't know, if you're winning a game by that margin at a major tournament, it's only an impressive result. We've seen even at England us play against smaller nations and struggle or just grind out wins. So yeah, it's got to be impressive. But tonight is the real test, I think. If tonight they convincingly beat Switzerland, and when I say convincing, I'm not talking big score lines, I'm talking performance-wise, then yeah, that's when I'll sit forward and go, oh, hang on a minute, there's more to this Italian team than was made out before the tournament. But we'll wait and see, because, like I say, you could see the likes of Spain turn it on in their second game as well, and maybe they weren't as impressive as we thought they would be in the first game. But it's too early to judge just yet. But I think that by 10 p.m. tonight, Italy could well be one of the favourites.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, listen, I'll pass it over to you, Daniel. You'll be a bit more sort of well-versed on Italy than I am. But I thought, watching Italy against Turkey, especially in that first half, I just thought there wasn't that much invention from the Italians. I don't think they really created that many clear-cut opportunities. And when the goals did come, it was through Turkey mistakes. That's the only sort of thing I have against their name. So do you think they have enough going forward to really break down these bigger teams going forward?
I think the way Turkey set up, I mean, Turkey didn't threaten Italy at all in the 90 minutes. They didn't look like scoring, getting a shot on target. They didn't look like bothering Italy at all throughout the whole game. So they set up defensively, men behind the ball, and it was always, and we've seen in a lot of games in this tournament, they're very quite cagey first halves with the first opening games for all the teams, and a lot of the goals have come in the second half, which I know naturally that does happen, but I think even at half-time when it was 0-0, very similar to the Portugal game, I always fancied Italy to get the win and score some goals, because they had the quality. They made a couple of sloppy mistakes in the final third, and for me, you can only beat what's put in front of you, and they emphatically beat Turkey. They cut them open at times, and to beat any team 3-0 at a major tournament, I think it's a big result for the opening game. So for me, you can't take anything away from Italy. Historically, they've opening games, they've drew, they've lost, they've maybe scraped through 1-0. So I think he's got the players playing perfectly to how he wants to play, Mancini. And I know tonight will probably be a bit more of a tougher test, because Switzerland will be, well, I'm not even sure that's actually true, because Turkey have got some great players in their squad. So for me, Turkey have got to show a lot more, but in terms of the Italians, they've done really well, and I do think they'll prolong in the tournament and go quite far.
Yeah, listen, absolutely, I definitely hope so, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what they can pull out the socks, I suppose. But that does bring us to an end. So we'll end on a couple of predictions. So we'll go Finland, Russia, then Turkey, Wales, and then Italy. Who are they playing? It's completely gone out of my head now.
Switzerland.
Switzerland. There we go. That's embarrassing, isn't it? So I'll come to you guys. I've got 3 predictions from you for each game. What are you saying?
I reckon Finland, Russia. I don't know, because they're tired. There are teams that probably will tire a little bit. I was going to go 2-2, but maybe they've not got that in them. I'll say 1-1 for that one. 1-1 Finland, Russia. Turkey, Wales. Oh, you got me thinking now. You got me thinking. Maybe the Turks are better than they showed in that first game, but I'm just going to base it based on what I saw in the first game, and I'm going to say 1-0 Wales, which is going to be tough. Yeah, 1-0 Wales. Sod it. Let's have it. And Italy, Switzerland. Yeah, I think that the Italians will really cement the place as one of the favourites tonight. I think Switzerland are a very, very good team, and I think they'll show it in parts, but I think Italy will just show their quality tonight, and I'm going to go 3-1 Italy.
Fair enough. Daniel, I'll ask you the same question just to round us off.
I hope it is 3-1 Italy. That'll be an entertaining game. So yeah, I'll go Russia 2-0. I do think Russia will win comfortably against Finland. I just can't see Finland getting any more points from the rest of the tournament personally. I'll go 1-1 Wales. I think it's going to be a tough game. They'll take that. I think Turkey got to come out and really go for it. So I do think that it'll be a tough game for Wales. So a 1-1 draw. And Italy, I'll go 2-0 Italy as well. So 2-0, 1-1, 2-0.
Fair enough. Well, I'll go Finland, Russia, I'll go 1-0 Russia. I think it's going to be a real horrible game, if I'm honest. And then Turkey, Wales, I'll go 2-1 Wales because I want Wales to do well, but I think there will be goals in that game. And then Italy, Switzerland, I think, Italy are going to have way too much for them. I can see another 3-0 on the cards, to be honest. But yeah, that's it for us today. Massive thank you to Gaz and Daniel for joining me. It's been brilliant to have you on. Massive thank you to everyone who's tuned in as well and contributed with your comments. It's been great to read them out and discuss them. If you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And we'll see you tomorrow for another Pride of Europe podcast on All for United. But yeah, until next time, I'll see you next time.
Later.